Today, Bitcoin enters its 35th month in this bull market. Prior bull markets have ended in the 35th month, 2021 and 2017. Only the 2013 top ran 37 months. So either way, we're looking at October and Q4 as a very strong chance for the end of the Bitcoin bull market. With that in mind, today we're going to try and forecast October and Q4, not only for Bitcoin, we're going to look at altcoins, gold, and the stock market. What's going to happen in October? So getting very big here on the forecasts. Make sure you hit the like button if you do find value from it. Maybe share it with a friend. Subscribe to the channel to stay updated with each of the day's analysis. We're here almost every single day updating you with Bitcoin, the stock markets, and the real estate cycle. So let's have a minor review of September. September, we suggested in that video over 4 weeks ago, somewhere through here, that September was going to be down and then a green finish. Down, I mean a close below the, a test in price below the previous month. We got there. It was marginal, 120 bucks lower. September, we're at 107,250, and August was 107,370. So it did happen. I thought it was going to be a little more, but of course, the market's going to do what the market's going to do. Either way, we've now seen that. And the thought from the rest of the market was that September was not going to be an easy month for Bitcoin. It hasn't been an easy month. It was green, but there was a lot of discussion that September was going to be red because historically it has been red more often than green. Now, there was a big reason why I didn't think it was going to be like that, and I shared it with you guys on the channel, plus with our weekly reports, which you can get in a link at the top of the video description. Bitcoin, the economy, real estate cycle, altcoins, all in the top of the video description there. And that was looking at the prior months and how that comes through for September, October, and Q4. July was green, August was red. When we've seen that in the past, generally we get a green September, even if it is marginal. And by marginal, I'm just looking at single digits here. You can see 2024 was 7%. After July was green, August was red, and then a nice strong finish to the year, Q4. And this year we had green July, red August, and we got that green September again. We also saw it back in 2015, which was at a low in the market. It was consolidating the gains. Well, it was basically an accumulation period for 2015 before it got into 2017, this huge big bull market. That is your 2015 consolidation, move higher, and then into that blow off top move. Now I bring up the consolidation because we saw that again in 2024. There it is there. That's 2024. And it was consolidating above the previous all-time high. So one was accumulation at the lows. And in my opinion, 2024 was a reaccumulation at the highs. And we've seen further higher prices since that point. So September worked out, doesn't always work out. So I'm not going to give myself a huge pat on the back with that, even though we've talked about it. What we want to do next, because it doesn't matter what happened in the past, all that matters is what's going to happen in the future. You're only as good as your next trade, as they say, is, what can we learn to help us with October and Q4. That's the first thing. We've seen this now play out. Q3, I've said, was a consolidating the gains type of period. And 2017 also helped with that. You can see this being July, August, September. If you saw a green August, then September has been red. So either way, Q3 is typically that time that consolidates the gains. So I think that's one of the first things that we can note when it comes to Q3. We've seen a consolidation of the gains thus far. A break higher, as we'll look at in a moment, would be a pretty strong signal that we're going to see further higher prices for the end of Q4, right? So a break in October would be further confirmation for that upside, and a few more pieces to the puzzle as I look at with the dominance, with Ethereum, with USDT dominance, and with the position of gold at the moment. Pretty big one there, hitting new all-time high prices. I think will give us a few more signs to what's to come next for Bitcoin in 2025 as it leads out into the end of this cycle. So Q3 historically was not good for Bitcoin, 56%, and Q1 is 53%, but typically consolidates, moves higher, consolidates, moves higher. So quarter four has a 67% hit rate, 2 out of 3 times you get green. Really not enough to confirm that it's going to be green, but at least you got 10 times out of 15 that you've got a green quarter coming up. Now, to swing those probabilities in our favor and to cherry pick a few more things here, I think it's reasonable to say that we could wipe out the bear market years because we're not in a bear market year for Bitcoin. We are 35 months, nearly 3 years into a bull market, not just starting, as some of the smart people in the world believe. We're not just starting a bull market. It's been going since November 2022. So if you are new to the game, at least be aware of that. It's been going since that level. It can go a lot higher, as I'll explain later in the video, looking at some price targets to the upside. But in terms of the major gains, those are most likely behind us for this cycle. Doesn't mean we still can't get a few more upside, cookies on the table. But back to the forward returns for Bitcoin, taking out some of the data here to give us a clearer perspective on bull markets. 2022 out, 2018 out, 2014, they were all bear market years. 2022, 2018, and 2014. We know that was a bear market year. We now have a hit rate of 83% for quarter four. So we've basically just swung the probabilities in our favor, but with reason. Not just any old years. I think with good reason, we can say that, well, this is still a bull market year. It's definitely not a bear market year. There's no characteristics of that thus far. Therefore, we'll assume, make an ass out of ourselves, that this is going to be a bull market year. Therefore, a green October, November, December, basically a green close to December. And with October, doesn't mean it's just going to be a straight up move either. In terms of quarter threes, which we'll come back to, there's a few other numbers to really look at here. October in our predictive cycles, let's move this over to the side here, suggests that the first half of October is a little bit trickier to play, whereas the second half of October, you can see at the bottom here, there's October, there are our lines. The second half is a bit cleaner, and it basically takes out the highs that we've seen through this year so far. So with that in mind, second half of October could be that time that we see things start to move. November, first half of November would also be nice, that first week in particular. And then it starts to consolidate the gains, pushes a little higher, consolidates again, and then here we go. December starts to rock and roll in that second half of December. So really, let's just take it one step at a time. October, first half, little trickier. We're anticipating a higher low to form, and then second half of October to break out of those highs. In particular, these levels at 118 that we've been watching, basically where the news has forced a price, let's say. J-Pal talked about interest rates in August. J-Pal cut the interest rates in September, and Bitcoin did not go any higher, didn't close above those highs. 118 is still that key level for any sort of consolidation above. Now, October, if we do get this little drive up early on and a pullback, there is the higher low. And if it happens above 118, even better. 118 is a real key level for me. 120 is the next level that's above those highs there. Basically, we've only seen one daily close above 120. Apart from that, everything, or two daily closes marginally, everything apart from that has been underneath. So we should start to get some consolidation and closes above 120 in order for this next stage, the green October, the green quarter four that we're talking about, for that to happen. Otherwise, it's another test and rejection, and we've got to watch out for these lows. Now, on the short term, for the sentiment, there's been some good points here. The sentiment has dropped off. Meanwhile, the lows have gotten higher. So there's a divergence between the market participants, the sentiment, there's more fear. However, the pricing has been higher. So you've got a higher price. That's a nice divergence, and we've seen that many, many times before. Here is a time that we've seen it. So you've got the higher low in September, and we've seen it in reverse with the tariff crash low. You can see on the price here, we don't need to zoom in, that is lower lows, but the sentiment is getting higher. So it works in reverse as well. People were getting less scared of lower prices and that was suggesting that there was going to be a low formed. The most prominent one in my books was around the low of the cycle. This is just a quick look at market sentiment on a broad perspective here. Lower prices, we get a nice diagonal forming here, lower prices. Meanwhile, the sentiment was climbing. So you're getting June, September, October, November, all of that sentiment was climbing. Therefore, we're probably going to form into a low. So if we start to see things continue to play out like that here, another good sign that we're going to see higher prices, because the sentiment has basically turned to shit. Can we say that? I think so. So if we see some higher prices, good stuff. That's really, really good longer term. Now we're discussing monthlies for Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance typically has a good October, and that's red, meaning, that's green. So basically a green October, and that can lead to either A, Bitcoin going higher, or B, alt going lower, or C, all of the above. You know, both of them can happen. Alts could still climb higher and still lose dominance because they're just not gaining as much as Bitcoin, or alts could literally go down while Bitcoin's going up. And yeah, that's why I've got option C there as well. But overall, I think dominance is going to go up. You can see October, green, October, green, October, slightly red, but it had a higher start to the month. Green in 21, green in 2020. In 2019, after a huge move up, it paused the market and then it ran up later. Green, green. There's another altcoin season, or just before altcoin season, big pump up. Green, green, green. In the early days when there were basically no altcoins, it still had some dominance there through 2016, 15, and 14. So the record for Bitcoin dominance is very, very positive here. Lots and lots of greens, and if it's red, extremely marginal. Here is flat, 0.01, that's flat. And here, negative 1.5%, basically flat. Every other time, green, 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 green. Does it happen again? Of course. The only thing in the market, what's the saying? The only thing guaranteed in the market there are no guarantees, but where I'm putting my money is that I think Bitcoin dominance is going to go up from this point. So it's really up to you what you think. I'm just presenting you with the data. One could say the facts, and it's up to you with what you want to do with that. So that's a look at Bitcoin dominance. It looks very, very positive. How's the quarter look? We've got October, green, but you can see how they weaken towards the end of the quarter, weakening end of the quarter. Here, not such a huge quarter. This ended up being a red quarter. Big move in 2020, and then a reversal in quarter one. October, that's quarter four in 2019. Barely anything. A sell-off into the end of the quarter four. Huge sell-off, end of quarter four. Red, marginal, marginal. So you can see how October does turn out well, and then the rest of that quarter not so good for Bitcoin dominance. And in terms of Bitcoin itself and the quarters, is for the cycle, for the bull market move, roughly 3 years now. Each of those previous cycles have been 3 years. There's generally 3, sometimes 4 red quarters in that bull market. This bull market for Bitcoin, we've already seen 1, 2, 3 red quarters. And we're measuring the bull market from the exact low point, not from when the media tells us the bull market's on, when it's hitting new all-time high prices. The bull market, to give you a measurable point, starts from the low, ends at the exact top. So there it is, 3. Prior cycle, you had 3 and 4. But of course, COVID was in there as well, and COVID bounced back pretty hard, almost hitting a green again. Going back to 2017, we have 1, 2, into that 2017, 1, 2, 3. So 3 and 2 here. There was also one more here, which was a huge move up, then a move down, and then you had this last blow-off move. So basically 3, 3, and 4 with COVID in there. We're currently at 3 now for the bull market, not including the bear market reds, of course, so just in the bull market. That suggests that we've had a nice healthy move to the upside, a nice balanced move for Bitcoin, nice pullbacks that have tested the rallies, so that's all good. Once we stop testing the rallies, that's when things get very, very weak. So if we don't get any of these checks back in place to test those prior highs, things can start to weaken. It doesn't look like we're there yet. Therefore, I think there's still further upside to go. So potentially more green here. October, Q4, all looking good there for Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance, which suggests that ETH may not have a good October, but Q4 may be okay. We'll continue to follow up with that as I've suggested. So it comes up in your feed. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you made it in this far, great. Now, ETH BTC is pretty bad in October's. September has all shown to be pretty red. Let's take a look at October. Red, sorry, not yet, but red in 24, red, big one in 23, green, reversal, and then basically faded again. That was in 22. You had a low form in 21 and then a bounce into that final run to the highs. Red 2020, ran into the low and then a nice bounce. Red 2019, minor red, still went lower. Red 2017, so that was coming into that peak as well, and it ran late. So you had a top for ETH in January, that was against USD, and then February, this was a month and a half after Bitcoin had topped, the ETH BTC pair kept going up. So it still ran up for the first part of Feb and then started to collapse as well. So that is a sign of things could run a little later here, just like they did in 2017, 2018. Red in 2016, red in 2015 as Ethereum came out. And then you had that move running later in Q1. So some pretty late moves for ETH versus BTC. And I think we've still got further to go for October. So another test lower. That's basically been my view here with ETH USD as well. As it has been relatively strong at the moment, consolidating the gains. It's done this many times before. And October could just be another dip down and then a rise back up. So testing in those mid 3000s, a move higher, that would be a pretty good sign there for ETH that is going to continue with its strength, just giving us that nice low that we're looking for, and then a move higher as well. So I still have high hopes for Ethereum for this cycle. However, October doesn't look like it's a great month for Ethereum. We can also have a look at ETH versus USD. And we go back to October here. That was red. Then it had a good time. So October, not the greatest. October went lower. Although it finished green, it did go lower versus September and August, and then finished strong. You have a reversal here after it went lower, reversed, and then continued to go lower in November, but that's around the low of the bear market. Bull market top, October was good. Not much happened in 2020. It took until November, December for ETH to really take off. 2019, nothing really happened there. What's that? Flat, not even 1%, and then down for November, down for 2018, October 2017, red, October 2016. So against USD, it's still not the greatest month there. There are a couple of standout occasions, 2021, and that's about it. Really just had this nice reversal in 23, but it still went lower. So ideally, something like 2023 happens, I think. Get this move lower and then a nice push higher. That sets us up for Q4. Now, another good sign for Bitcoin being stronger than the alts, as we've looked at with Bitcoin dominance and obviously being stronger than Ethereum for October, is the USDT dominance is not so strong in October. There is a 100% hit rate thus far that USDT dominance is red in October. There it is, 2024. So where the vertical lines are, that is your October reading. And then, of course, the years. We're looking at a monthly chart, 2024, red, 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 red. Let's get the logarithmic out. Red, red, red. 10 years of USDT dominance being red in October. Now, after that point, it has gone green in some of those years, especially in the bull markets, in the bear markets, being a bull market for USDT dominance. But for this particular year, we've been consolidating pretty damn tight. And there are some higher lows forming here, lower highs. It's pretty difficult to see. It's similar to 2021 where you had these highs forming, slightly higher lows. You had another attempt at some higher prices, and then all that money flooded from altcoins, Bitcoin back into USDT. And that's what led to this big boom higher. However, this time we've continued to put in lower highs on the macro and still just basing out here. So for October, the best case scenario would be to see a red ideally the lowest red possible, which would mean more of that money flowing into Bitcoin and ETH, holding up ready for that final move for Q4 or even into Q1 of 2026. And then, yeah, you would see this continue down, breaking 3.7%, which is the level that we've all been watching here for a mega bull market for Bitcoin or altcoins or both, right? But worst case scenario for the bull market, we still see a red here, but it still holds out and then just trickles lower for those next few months and is not able to break 3.7%. You'd still probably see a lot of that money flow into Bitcoin and Ethereum and probably miss out for the altcoins. But yeah, a lot of that money would still flow there. You'd still get a move from 4.5% down to 3.7, 3.9, something like that. So still a reasonable move there, but just no huge fireworks. That's the ideal move coming up here for USDT. Let's keep watching that. This is still showing that we're going to see Bitcoin dominance rise. Money from that is going to flow into Bitcoin. ETH's not going to have a great time. Most of the alts also not going to have a great time. And USDT dominance is also going to go down, which is a good thing for the bull market. Now, gold and S&P 500. A quick review here before I go back and have a look at some price targets for Bitcoin. I think this is important because of what we typically see. We're seeing a strong gold, and Bitcoin has really struggled through a lot of this. BTC, longer term chart here. Let's have a look at the monthly off log. It has climbed higher, but gold has been doing much, much bigger gains. 2,000 to nearly 4,000, basically doubling here from that February-March period. So look at Feb 24, Bitcoin. There is Feb. That's 60,000. We're at 114. They're both doubled there, but you've got less volatility in gold overall with with even slightly higher gains. So you'd want to see bigger gains for the higher volatile product being Bitcoin. Just like why you would invest in altcoins. You want to see bigger gains there because far more volatile, far more risky. So if you're only getting the same gains as something that's been around for thousands and thousands of years, it's not a great investment. That's just for that period. Of course, we know holding Bitcoin for years has been a lot better, but that's just looking at it technically, purely from an investment point of view. Now, gold is at its 11th straight month to the upside. That has never happened before in gold's history when it comes to trading it on the markets. What does that mean? What does that mean for gold for October in this quarter? And what does it mean for Bitcoin? In short, I think that we might have a reversal coming out here, but I don't want to be too early on it because that's what basically all of those naysayers for any market that runs into all-time highs do. They keep trying to short everything on the way up. Well, I'm not trying to do that whatsoever, but we've seen some pretty big moves. 11 months, never happened before in history. We've seen some breakouts here. And when it comes to October, here's my forward returns for gold on the TIA crypto site. Gold in October is one of the worst months. You can see it's 46%, so less than 50% of the time it's green. Therefore, it's a pretty reasonable candidate for a red October. And sometimes when we see these reversals for gold, it can be also a helpful point for Bitcoin. Some of that interest in the market starts to swing back in Bitcoin's favor. We haven't seen much happen for Bitcoin over the last 3 months. Maybe this is its time to shine while gold finally takes a much needed rest after 11 months up. Higher lows in particular. That's what we're looking at. Not the color of the bars, it doesn't matter. It's where the lows are formed. And we've seen that go straight up according to Gann analysis, which has been around for over 120 odd years. Gann died back in 1955, been trading the markets for over 50 years in that period. This is where all of these rules come from. So 11 months to the upside, 8 months prior to that, you had a month pullback, month consolidation, and then a move higher. And then these 2 other occasions, well, actually 3, because it works in reverse as well, 7 to 10 months, pretty significant rule there. Let's look at these ones here. 7 months to the upside, pullback and consolidation, and then had another move higher, consolidated, big move, then 9 months. Huge consolidation with 30 something% decline. There it is there, 34% decline, consolidated for about 16 months, and then started to move into that final top. So it's not going to be without its volatility. If it comes back to test those highs, great. That's what you want to see in the markets. You want to see, you want to see markets test previous tops. The one thing I'm not suggesting is that we see these sort of corrections. It is possible, of course, but I don't want to be calling for a 30% correction when the cycle's up, when the trend is up, when it is so strong. It only consolidates for a few months and then keeps going. It could run till 4,500 and then do the pullback from there. We don't know. We've got to keep running with where the trend is. From the current high to the previous support levels there around 2,100, that is a 45% correction. Like it hasn't done that unless it's in a bear market, and it doesn't look like it's in a bear market now. Therefore, I wouldn't be looking for it to come back to the $2,100 highs. So October, as we've looked at, not the greatest month for gold. On top of that, it has run one of the longest moves on a monthly chart in its history, or the longest monthly swing in history. And in terms of timing as well, which kind of works in with the swing chart, it might be coming into that season for it, especially for October. I'm not looking for a huge correction, hasn't suggested that yet. So let's just keep watching. And if that's the case, then I think you've got some good things happening there for Bitcoin as well, with some of that interest maybe moving out. Same sort of thing for the S&P 500. Now, in a nutshell, S&P's done 5 straight months up. The data suggests that when it's done 5 straight months up, 12 months later, you have a 94% hit rate of a positive 12 months. Albeit it is only median returns. They're not that spectacular, about 1% a month. Of course, it's still pretty crazy, but considering where it's come from, they aren't the greatest returns. S&P 500 is up 20% some years, 30%. So getting 12%, people are going to be disappointed. And how could that happen? Well, you could see the market climb higher, big movements, and then continue higher. So some significant corrections. And those significant corrections could come in the form of an October low or somewhere around April next year as well. We've seen very significant turns in Octobers and Aprils over many, many years. So not to make this video go too long, but I'll highlight a few of those. This is the October line in the background, in the vertical. October. Iran and Israel, missiles going off, low in the market. October 2022, bear market low. You've got consolidation after the big dump and rise. That was September and October. October, big dump back in 2018. That was some pretty scary stuff in the market. December also there. Taking it back to the Lehman Brothers collapse, 2008, big move down, and into October 2022, another big bear market low. So October is a pretty severe time, a volatile time, not saying that it's going to dump like that, but it has the potential to at least pause the market, especially after a significant run, and we can start going. Our 5 years are also looking for an October consolidation. I'm still bullish long-term, especially when we look out forward for the 18-year cycle. So if we do get a bit of a pause here, as we've talked about with Bitcoin, first half of the month could be that move and the higher low before we get a nice cleaner run, according to our forecasting tools here, our predictive cycles. That's what we're looking out for. And that would also line up with something to do with gold, maybe testing a few higher prices here and stalling. S&P, possibly as well. So I'm putting that down as Bitcoin to be a little doing a little better here than the S&P and for gold for October, but I still think we have further to go to the upside. USDT dominance also suggests that we've got a red month of October coming. It's been 100% so far. Is it going to be 100% again? We'll see. I've got to keep going with what the data is suggesting here. If anything, maybe it's marginal to the upside, but nonetheless, Ethereum still looks like it wants some more time to consolidate the gains as well. And that leads us to Bitcoin and those final price targets. Now, a couple of these that I've shared with you guys before, mid 130s, mid 160s. Reason being, many of the fib extensions, well, it's a lot of lines, fib extensions and the fib retracements looking at multiples of previous ranges start to coincide, or you get price clusters with that mid 130 level. So when you see that, that's a way to identify price resistance in price discovery. So how does one do it? You know, you've got no other resistance levels above. This is what the market is using. Basically mathematical points of force. in the price chart in that price discovery. The mid 130s, there are a lot of numbers lining up here that the market has already used with all of these cycles leading to that point. Should we get there, test, reject, and then come up again, the mid 160s is another level that I'm watching out for. So I'll cover this in future videos with more detail, but as a brief rundown, the mid 130s, mid 160s are still the levels I'm watching. We haven't had any other significant price changes thus far to warrant these levels changing, but they could change if we see any sort of bigger moves higher and then corrections. Then we'll start to use these ranges projected off the lows to give us those next targets. For now, mid 130s, mid 160s are still looking good. And if this isn't a sign for end of cycle vibes, we have the smartest man in the world. Okay, hit the like, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend. Here is the smartest man in the world, IQ 276, suggesting that he believes Bitcoin is the only hope for the future economy. Therefore, he's converted all his assets into Bitcoin, and then goes on with a religious line here. Now, two funny things with this. If you've been around crypto for years, or even trading first, I've put a quote down here that we've heard from great traders. They say they've never met anyone too dumb to trade, but they've met plenty of people that are too smart. We have the smartest man in the world talking about this 35 months into a bull market. Where was he 35 months ago? Well, if the smartest man in the world, why aren't you looking at this? But that doesn't, just because you're smart doesn't mean you're a good investor. So that gives us hope to all the rest of us who are dumber than this person, according to the IQ test. This is from Jack Schwager. If you've seen his books, absolutely amazing. Market Wizards. I've never met anyone too dumb. So hope for the rest of us. We can all learn to trade. But those who are too smart typically aren't great at trading because they're too smart. And it sums up this particular meme, which has been around in crypto for quite a long time. As the world's lowest IQ record holder, we are in perfect alignment. Basically, you've got the dumbest people getting in at the lows, the smartest people getting in at the tops, and I don't know, the rest of them fighting it out in the middle, just not sure what they want to do. So congratulations if you were here before, before 2017, maybe before 2013. You're the dumbest out of the bunch, and we've been in those gains all the way up. Smartest in the bunch, good luck. Hopefully there is still some bigger upside, but I think we've got not far to go in this bull market. Could be late, we're looking at October, of course, December, and Q1 2026, according to the time cycles. So we're in good hands here. Like and subscribe to the channel. Check out the reports coming out this week, of course, and I'll see you guys back at the next video. Plenty of updates coming through for the rest of this cycle and into the collapse of the 18-year cycle. Thanks again, guys. Peace out.